Revealed 12 sinister ghost legends from Georgia that are terrifying and cursed beyond belief. Emma had run away from her past, leaving the ashes of a broken marriage behind. She settled into the Weeping House, a decrepit beauty nestled in Millwood. The price was too good to be true, and it promised a fresh start for her and Mia, her 15-year-old daughter. But the moment her foot crossed the threshold, the air thickened with something she couldn't place. The creaking floorboards whispered secrets, and the walls seemed to breathe with a life of their own. Mia was thrilled at first, excited to sleep in a place steeped in history. But excitement quickly turned to apprehension. One night, she came running into Emma's room, eyes wide and voice shaking. "Mom, I saw a shadow darting past my window." Emma, pragmatic and exhausted, brushed it off. "Just shadows, honey. We're in a new place." Each night, Mia's tales grew wilder. The moans and cries echoing through the house felt eerily real. Days turned into blurred routines of waitressing and school pickups. Yet Mia's fears lingered. The couple next door, overly friendly, began to hover and offer odd stories of the local ghosts. They rambled about the Weeping House, cloaking it in a shroud of mystery that made Emma's skin crawl. "Isn't it interesting how some houses have spirits attached to them?" one neighbor said with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Emma felt her instinct scream, warning her to shield Mia from these people. Who were they really? One evening, she decided to get to the bottom of it. Research in the flickering light of her small desk revealed dark tales, families disappearing without a trace, echoes of laughter or cries trapped eternally in the walls, the Weeping House drawing in the vulnerable. She learned of the unscrupulous landlord who preyed on the desperate. Every chilling word felt like ice down her spine. The connection was unmistakable, the house's legacy of sorrow and the seemingly benevolent couple who lived next door. "Mom!" Mia shrieked. Emma dashed into the living room just as her daughter barreled past, her face ghost white. "I saw it, a figure in the hallway." A chill filled the air as Emma's heart raced. She bolted the door behind them, fearful that something was lurking just beyond the threshold. They felt the shadows shift, pooling at the edges of their dim light, scraping against the walls, like an ominous hand wrapping itself around them. Why was everything suddenly so still? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With her back pressed against the door, Emma felt another presence behind her. In that suffocating moment, she could hear faint whispers echoing in her mind and seeping through the walls. A call for Mia that felt more alive than any ghost story. The town's history was intertwined with their own, but now the danger felt very much alive. What lurked in the shadows? What hidden truth was waiting to be uncovered? Emma breathed in deeply, realizing that their fight against the darkness might require more than just her love. It could demand their very lives. As the final whispers grew closer, she locked eyes with Mia. Whatever haunted the Weeping House, Emma knew one thing for sure: they were far from alone. The silence was deafening, absorbing every heartbeat, every thought, as if the house itself was holding its breath. Emma could feel the pulse of dread as it seeped into the very marrow of her bones. She clutched Mia's arm, her grip tight, anchoring her against the encroaching darkness. A low grating sound reverberated in the room, a door creaking, a soft shuffle. "Did you hear that?" Mia's voice quavered, barely above a whisper, her eyes fixed on the sliver of shadow that painted the hallway just beyond the door. "Stay close to me," Emma commanded, forcing calm into her voice. But inside, a storm raged as her mind raced through every ghost story she had ever dismissed. Shadows couldn't just be shadows. Not here, not now. They stood together in the dim light, surrounded by the oppressive gloom. A chill crept through the cracks of the weather-worn windows, wrapping around them like a frozen ribbon. Emma's breathing quickened as she forced herself to reach for the door handle, fully aware that opening it could unleash whatever foreign entity was lurking on the other side. The thought of it sent tremors through her fingers. With a deep breath, she twisted the handle and flung the door wide open. The corridor was empty, but something felt wrong. An unnatural stillness blanketed the air. Mia peered around her, eyes darting, as if expecting to see the figure dart away again. Emma stepped out cautiously, scanning the dimly lit hallway, desperate to shake the swarm of dread that settled in her gut. "Let's check the rest of the house," Mia said, her voice steadier now. Emma nodded, uncertain but willing to confront the chaos swirling within the weeping house. They venturing down the creaking hallway, floorboards groaning beneath them, marking their passage like a mournful dirge. Suddenly, Emma halted, a chill tiptoeing down her spine. In the corner of her eye, a movement, a fleeting glimpse of fabric, pale and flowing like silk. She gasped, clutching Mia's arm tighter than before. "Did you see that?" With childlike curiosity battling fear, Mia nodded slowly. It was white. The words hung between them, charged with unspoken terror. What if it wants something? Emma's heart raced. A moment later, a bitter, rancid smell filled the air, turning her stomach. It clawed at her throat, heavy and suffocating. Suddenly, a crack echoed behind them, the door they had just left swinging shut with a loud bang, cutting off their retreat. Panic surged through Emma, breathing life into the tension pooling at the base of her neck. "We need to get out!" No longer caring about being quiet, she dashed toward the front door, pulling Mia along. But when they reached the entryway, it wouldn't budge. The wood was solid, unyielding, taunting their desperate attempts. "Mom, behind you!" Mia screamed. Emma spun around just in time to see a shadowy figure coalesce from the darkness, its eyes glinting like coals in the night. It loomed, radiating a sense of malevolence that seemed to grow with every heartbeat of silence that followed. Emma felt the air grow heavy. She could almost hear the echoes of sorrow in the shape of that figure, wrapping around them like a sinister blanket. "What do you want?" she demanded, her voice a shaky whisper. But the figure only stared, and the whispers grew louder, a cacophony of pleas and demands echoing through the house. "Mom!" Mia cried, pulling at Emma's sleeve. "What do we do?" As the darkness surged toward them, Emma's mind raced. There had to be a way out. But what if their only escape was to confront this entity, to face whatever horror had claimed the weeping house long before they arrived? Terror tightened its grip, and in the shadowy depths of the hallway, a new question formed. What if confronting the darkness only deepened the shadows lurking inside their souls? Emma felt a tremor in her hands as she took a step forward toward the figure, her heart pounding. The whispers grew louder, drowning out her thoughts as the ghost loomed ever closer. What would she be willing to sacrifice to uncover the truth? Was Mia right about the shadow in the bedroom, or had that pale specter always been part of the weeping house? The air thickened as Emma took another step into the gloom, every instinct screaming at her to turn and run. The figure before her, shrouded in shadows, seemed to absorb the light, twisting and contorting like smoke in a candle's flame. She could taste the fear on her tongue. It was metallic like blood. "Mom, don't!" Mia's voice sliced through the oppressive atmosphere, anchoring Emma just long enough to collect her thoughts. "Mia, stay behind me." Her voice trembled, but determination fought through the panic. She squared her shoulders and took another step, her heart pounding like a war drum. The whispers fell into a guttural hush, replaced by the low sound of breathing, raspy, labored. Emma squinted, straining to see the figure's features, desperate for any clue, any sign of sentience behind those fiery eyes. "Who are you?" she demanded, the question echoing through the corridor like a dare. But this time, a response grumbled through the darkness. "Come, join us." The voice was distorted, as if heard through murky water. "What do you mean?" Emma felt Mia's fingers curl tightly around her arm, squeezing like a vice. "Join the others. Join the sorrow." The figure drifted closer, a wave of cold washing over Emma, leaving her breathless. She stumbled back, her back colliding with Mia's flimsy frame. "Mom!" Mia shrieked as the wall pressed painfully against Emma's spine. But the words seemed to invigorate the dark presence, which hovered just out of reach, teasing them with promises of eternal peace, or perhaps despair. "Why can't we leave?" Emma whispered, panic etched across her face. "Leave the pain behind, the sorrow of this house." It circled them, shadows swirling in a dizzying vortex, like a tempest brewing. The rancid smell now thickened, each inhalation drawing them deeper into a world they couldn't escape. Emma's mind raced. Stories flickered through her thoughts, tales of lost souls in haunted homes, woven around lingering spirits that fed on fear. This entity wasn't just a figment. It was emotion given form, a twisted echo of all who had suffered, trapped in this cursed dwelling. "Mom, please." Mia was shaking now, tears glistening in her wide eyes. "This isn't happening. It can't be." Emma bit her lip, her inner voice battling the turmoil. They had to leave. But what if staying was the only chance to save themselves, or worse, unleash something they couldn't control? "Join us!" The specter lunged, a shift of dark air rushing towards them. Emma felt Mia's grip loosen as the pull of the figure beckoned powerfully, whispering promises of forgotten hurts and faded memories. With a sudden surge of defiance, Emma stepped forward again, raising her hands as if to shield them both. "No, we won't. We aren't going anywhere with you." Her voice was stronger now, a raw roar piercing the silence. The figure hesitated, shadows flickering like a flame caught in a gust of wind. But that hesitation was brief. "Then you will feel the pain." And just like that, the whispers erupted into a cacophony of anguish, tearing through the air. The sounds of heartbreak stretching long and wide, wrapping around them like chains. Emma and Mia found themselves rooted, their screams choked in their throats as the walls of the weeping house closed in tighter. The shadows surged, and through the tempest of despair, Emma grasped Mia's hand desperately. They had to fight back, but what if the shadows were stronger than they ever imagined? "Hold on!" Emma cried, her voice trembling as the house itself seemed to pitch and tilt, threatening to swallow them whole. Darkness coiled around them, deepening with a cold, creeping dread that clung like a second skin. They couldn't give in. If they were to survive this nightmare, it would require everything they had left. But what would it cost them? With every ounce of strength, Emma pressed on, the figure looming, its intentions cloaked in shadow. And somewhere, inside the darkness of the weeping house, a sinister truth waited to be uncovered. Would they discover the secret that could save them, or sink into the depths of despair? The cacophony around them intensified, ripping through the air like an unending scream. Emma tightened her grip on Mia's hand, the chill of the shadows creeping through her skin, knotting her stomach into a vice. "We have to get out," she shouted, desperation bleeding into her voice. But the darkness responded with a rush of cold air, pressing against them, squeezing from all sides. The whispers transitioned into wails, blending indistinguishably with their own panic-fueled gasps. "There's no escape," they seemed to say, wrapping around Emma's thoughts, tightening every rational fiber in her mind. Sickened, she turned to look at Mia, but the little girl's eyes were wide with fear, the terror glistening like liquid glass. "They won't let us go, Mom," Mia cried, her voice breaking. "Listen to me, Mia," Emma said fiercely, forcing herself to stay calm. "We can't give in. We just need to find a way out of this nightmare." But how? The shadows writhed like hungry serpents, consuming the space around them, distorting every corner of the room. It felt like drowning in thick, oily darkness, and she could feel it snaking its way into her lungs. "Join us," the figure howled again, its form pulsating, stretching as it twisted in and out of visibility. "Submit to the pain." "No, never," Emma shouted, fighting against the wonders of despair that lured them with each breath. In a sudden burst of instinct, she tore herself away from the entity's grasp and dragged Mia behind her. "Mia, look for a door, a window," she shouted, her heart racing faster than her feet could carry them. The walls seemed to leer at them, gaping in mirth at their struggle. Sobs echoed through the corridor, deep-rooted sorrows floating to the surface of Emma's consciousness. She fought to push them away, to concentrate on what was real, the walls coated in dampness, the floorboards creaking underfoot, the smell of decay ripe on the air. Then, just as panic set in fully, Emma spotted it. At the far end of the corridor, partly obscured by darkness, a faint glow flickered like a candle's flame. Hope surged through her. "Over there!" she yelled, pointing. They sprinted toward the glow, hearts hammering in unison, the shadows screeching behind them as if enraged by their defiance. The whispers morphed into furious growls, angered at their attempt to flee. Emma could feel the chill closing in behind them, a suffocating weight pressing on her as she reached the door. Her trembling hands grabbed the cold iron handle. Unbearable dread clawed at her throat. What awaited them on the other side? As she twisted the handle, a shock wave of bitter wind slammed into her, nearly knocking her off balance. But she forced herself to push, forcing the door ajar, the creaking revealing a room bathed in an eerie light. "Mom, hurry!" Mia's voice snapped her back. The shadows were nearly upon them, writhing, howling, as if indignant at their flight. They burst through, and Emma slammed the door behind them. The air shifted, the shadows recoiling, momentarily stunned. Gasping, she turned to face the room. It was filled with remnants of a forgotten time. Dusty furniture, tattered curtains, and a large mirror that dominated one wall. But the unsettling sensation returned. The mirror, was it reflecting their fear, their dismay? "Mia, stay close," Emma urged as she moved into the room, scanning for any kind of escape. In its depths, something twisted beneath the surface. A flicker of movement caught Emma's eye, and she froze, skin prickling with terror. The reflection, it didn't seem to mirror their actions. It was warped. Before she could react, a face began to form in the glass, a gaunt visage, locked in perpetual agony. Mia's scream cut through the air as Emma turned to shield her. But it was too late. The face in the mirror grinned, a wicked delight painted across its features. "Join the sorrow," it echoed, voice reverberating in Emma's mind, mingling with her own torment. Time slowed as Emma's heart sank into her stomach. The shadows outside the door whispered their promises of torment. "Mom!" Mia trembled beside her, eyes wide with horror. And as the walls inched closer, Emma's mind raced. Could they face what awaited them beyond the mirror? Or had they unwittingly walked deeper into the weeping house's embrace, sealing their fate? Because in the depths of despair, every choice becomes a path to darkness. "Can we trust what we see?" Emma whispered, uncertainty weaving its way through her resolve. But before she could respond, the room trembled and the mirror pulsed with a life of its own. The truth was about to break through. What horrors would they uncover, and were they strong enough to confront the reflections of their own souls? The mirror shimmered ominously as if alive, its surface rippling like disturbed water. Emma felt a pull, a magnetic force that threatened to drag them into its depths. She pressed her back against the cold wall, veins pulsing with dread. "Mia, don't look at it!" But it was too late. The little girl's gaze was locked onto the mirror, wide-eyed, entranced. Emma's heart raced. Each second ticked by like an eternity, the reflection warping, twisting into grotesque shapes, as if echoing their fears. The cold sweat on her brow turned the air thick, suffocating. "Mom, it's smiling," Mia whispered, her voice trembling. Emma shook her head, panic clawing at her throat. "Get away from it!" she shouted, lunging to grab Mia's arm. But as she turned, a chill shot down her spine. The face in the mirror, that grinning visage, detached itself, keeping its corporeal form while the glass remained intact, like a predator stepping out of a trap. "Mia, run!" She had barely uttered the words when the dark presence lunged forward, its twisted fingers aimed at Emma, cold as ice, reaching for her thoughts. The shadows clawed at their heels as they bolted further into the room, searching for another exit. The door they had entered was now an impenetrable barrier, locked by unseen forces. She felt an overwhelming sense of urgency. "Keep moving!" Emma yelled, her breath hitching as she pulled Mia towards what appeared to be another door at the far side of the room. Shadows shifted behind them, their presence palpable, a living fog intent on smothering them. But the door stood solid, a looming slab of wood reinforced by dread. Emma grasped the handle and turned it, but it resisted her. Her nails dug into the wood as if trying to tear it open. The murmurings of the damned, trapped within the walls, began to crescendo, a choir of anguish echoing every regret she had ever harbored. "Mom, what's happening?" Mia's voice trembled, laced with urgency. Emma could hear the fear practically vibrating off her skin. It tore at her heart. Out of desperation, she slammed her shoulder against the door, once, twice. Its creaking echoed like a death knell. But then another sound emerged from the mirror, soft and inviting, like a lover's whisper. "Join us, Emma. No more pain. Embrace the darkness. Let go." The voice was silky and sweet, intertwining with her thoughts and swirling deeper into her mind. The mirror pulsed ever so slightly, and with that pulse, images bloomed within. Echoes of her past, memories of every sleepless night, every moment of doubt. They festered and twisted in the realm of her mind as the darkness beckoned closer. "Mia!" The sound of her daughter's panic broke through. Emma forced her focus back to the room, the flickering shadows now a chaotic dance around them. "Don't listen!" she shouted, as the wretched visage from the mirror appeared at the perimeter, a faint outline in the flickering lights. It smiled wide, a mockery of solace. Suddenly, the room lurched, sending them both crashing onto the floor. The mirror's reflection swirled with chaos, the gaunt figure now just a hand's breadth from Mia. Emma's stomach dropped. A visceral instinct surged through her. With a shout, she lunged, grabbing Mia, and shoved her toward the door again. "Hold on!"
With every ounce of her strength, Emma threw herself against the door, desperation fueling her movements as shadows clawed at her from behind. Just as the darkness threatened to engulf them, the door groaned and creaked, swinging wide open, spilling them into an unlit corridor beyond. But what lay ahead? Emma's breath came in ragged gasps. Adrenaline coursed through her veins, yet the suffocating grip of terror still loomed.
Flickering lights danced in the distance, but a different sound resonated, a dissonant, echoing laughter that followed them from the room they had just escaped. "Mama, what will we do?" Mia whimpered, looking up at Emma with wide, frightened eyes. The corridor itself felt alive, constricting. Emma squinted against the dim light ahead, trying to gather her thoughts. Would the next room be sanctuary or another trap? Stay close, Mia. We face this together. We have to find a way out, no matter what. But the laughter rang louder now, bouncing off the walls. It spoke to them, weaving through the shadows, as the whispers pooled in her skull, echoing the uncertainty of her choice. And then, just before they could step forward, the ground trembled beneath them, the laughter crescendoing. Can you escape the darkness, or will you become part of it? With each heartbeat, the shadows clawed anew at their heels, waiting eagerly to reclaim what they believed was theirs. Emma clamped her jaw, every instinct urging her forward. What waited behind the flickering light ahead? Would they emerge from this labyrinth of despair, or would they surrender to the laughter that beckoned them back? Mia clung tightly to Emma's hand as they stumbled forward, heartbeats pounding like war drums in the oppressive silence of the corridor. The air felt thick, each breath a struggle against the encroaching dread. The flickering lights above cast long, unsettling shadows, which twisted and reached as if alive, waiting to swallow them whole. "Keep moving," Emma urged, gritting her teeth. She forced her feet to propel them deeper into the unknown, her pulse a steady reminder of their urgency. The laughter echoed again, richer and taunting. It was a sound that crawled under her skin, tightening every muscle in her body. "Where are you going, Emma?" it whispered, dripping with malice. "Don't you want to play?" "No, never." She pressed on, desperately dragging Mia along, but the shadows slithered closer, promising hidden terrors just out of sight. At the end of the hallway, the flickering light intensified. It illuminated a door slightly ajar. A faint glow ebbed from within, soft and inviting, yet draped in a deceptive atmosphere of tranquility. Emma felt a compelling urge to step through it, just an instinct, a flicker of hope. "Mom, what if it's a trap?" Mia's voice quivered, breaking through the haze of terror. "It could be our way out," Emma said, forcing a confidence she didn't feel. The decision hung like a noose over her, a determination rehearsed in the theater of her mind. But as she reached for the door, her fingertips barely brushed the surface when a rush of icy air surged from the crack, snatching the warmth from her body. Whispers began to seep out, wrapping around them, secrets begging to be heard, souls pleading for release. Emma recoiled, heart racing as memories swept through her, each whisper of her past, regrets, lost dreams, faces she once held dear. "No," she gasped, shaking her head, pulling Mia close. "We have to keep moving." But the door creaked open wider, a sinister invitation that seemed to ripple with dark energy. Chilled fingers brushed against Emma's neck. She could sense the unseen watchers lurking beyond that threshold. "Join us. We have all the time in the world," crooned the ghosts within. Mia whimpered, squeezing her hand tighter until her knuckles turned white. "Mom, I don't like this," she pleaded, tiny body trembling with fear. Emma locked eyes with her daughter, seeing pure terror reflected back at her. "It's okay, Mia. I won't let anything happen to you. We just have to keep going." She turned, ready to abandon the door, but the laughter split the air again, harsh and shrill, vibrating through her bones. It summoned every shadow, every doubt, gathering them around them like a storm. Suddenly, a cold wave washed over them, blurring the edges of the hallway, the ground shaking violently beneath their feet. The walls pulsed, the flickering lights dimming like dying stars. "It's coming!" Emma shouted, gathering all her strength to shield Mia. "Mom!" Mia's voice was a shriek of panic, the shadows thickening and reaching for them like grasping hands. With sheer desperation, they turned and sprinted back towards the opening they had escaped from. But the corridor was shifting, twisting back on itself, laying out a deceptive labyrinth behind them. The world crumbled, yet the laughter echoed louder, more frantic, a cruel symphony dictating the chaos. "Stand back," Emma commanded, heart racing as she hurled herself against what was once a solid wall. The wood shuddered, vibrating against the relentless onslaught of dark energy swarming them. A crack split the air, the shadows recoiling momentarily, and Emma seized that moment of hesitation to push through. "Go, go," she urged Mia, a wild flare of hope igniting within her. Just as they broke through, Emma glanced back, catching a glimpse of the wretched figure looming in the corridor, eyes glimmering with a hunger that sent ice through her veins. But before they could catch their breath, there was another door looming just ahead, one that seemed to pulsate with a different energy, a promise of life or of grave danger. "Mama, what now?" Mia begged, looking up with wide, terrified eyes. Emma hesitated, the weight of their past and the future crashing in on her. "I don't know, baby, but we have to find out." As they stepped closer to the door, a primal thrill coursed through Emma, fear mixed with hope. What awaited them on the other side? Would they finally find freedom, or had they simply traded one nightmare for another? The laughter faded for a moment, only to be replaced by a chilling silence that seemed to hold its breath, waiting for them to choose. The door loomed larger as Emma and Mia approached, its surface glowing faintly, pulling them like a moth to a flame. Emma's heart thrummed violently against her ribs. Fear and uncertainty tightened around her throat, but she kept moving. Just one step more, she thought, her instinct screaming in warning. "Mama, please," Mia's small voice trembled. "We're okay, sweetheart. Just breathe," Emma whispered, though her own breath felt shallow, edged with panic. She pushed against the door, feeling it yield slightly under her weight, the hinges groaning like a creature awakening from a long sleep. The door swung open with a soft creak, unveiling a dimly lit room beyond. Dust motes danced in the pale light, and an overwhelming stillness enveloped them. It felt too quiet, too serene for a place that had been a nightmare moments before. Emma hesitated, but the shadows behind them urged her on. "Mom," Mia pulled at her sleeve, her voice high-pitched and urgent. "I don't like it here." Before Emma could respond, a frigid gust of wind swept from the darkness inside the room, making her shiver uncontrollably. It felt alive. Authentic terror prickled at the back of her neck. She took a cautious step inside, dragging Mia with her. The air inside was thick, sticky with a lingering scent of mildew and something else, something rotten. The room was cluttered with old furniture, draped in white sheets that resembled ghostly figures frozen mid-dance. Each covered piece loomed like a guardian of old, holding memories best left undisturbed. Mia whimpered quietly behind her, and Emma turned to offer a reassuring smile, but it faltered when she saw the expression on her daughter's face. It was a mixture of dread and something else, a knowing fear that sent chills down Emma's spine. "Do you feel that?" Mia whispered, her eyes darting around, wide and searching. "Yes," Emma admitted, her stomach churning as a sense of foreboding settled over her like a thick fog. "But we need to keep going." They ventured deeper, the atmosphere growing heavier with each step. Shadows flickered fleetingly at the corners of her vision, darting just beyond reach, teasing and threatening all at once. Emma pressed her lips together, fighting the impulse to scream. Then, in the far corner, something caught her eye, a glimmering object half buried beneath an old curtain. Curiosity gnawed at her fear. "Mia, stay close," she ordered, moving cautiously toward it. With every footfall, the laughter from before echoed once more in her ears, a sinister reminder of the danger lurking behind them. As she pulled the curtain aside, her breath caught in her throat. It was an antique mirror, ornately framed and dusty, yet it reflected not just their image, but a distorted version. Muffled figures with hollow eyes and pained expressions danced just behind them. Emma's pulse quickened, her heart pounding loud enough to drown out everything else. "Mama," Mia cried, fear laced in her voice. "They're in there." "Yes," Emma admitted, her stomach churning as a sense of foreboding settled over her like a thick fog. "But we need to keep going." They ventured deeper, the atmosphere growing heavier with each step. Shadows flickered fleetingly at the corners of her vision, darting just beyond reach, teasing and threatening all at once. Emma pressed her lips together, fighting the impulse to scream. Then, in the far corner, something caught her eye, a glimmering object half buried beneath an old curtain. Curiosity gnawed at her fear. "Mia, stay close," she ordered, moving cautiously toward it. With every footfall, the laughter from before echoed once more in her ears, a sinister reminder of the danger lurking behind them. As she pulled the curtain aside, her breath caught in her throat. It was an antique mirror, ornately framed and dusty, yet it reflected not just their image, but a distorted version. Muffled figures with hollow eyes and pained expressions danced just behind them. Emma's pulse quickened, her heart pounding loud enough to drown out everything else. "Mama," Mia cried, fear laced in her voice, "they're in there." Emma's mind raced, caught between disbelief and raw terror. They needed to escape. Before she could respond, the mirror rippled like water, distorting the room around them. Voices rose from within, whimpering and pleading, slicing through the air like shards of ice. Emma grabbed Mia's hand tighter, ready to run, but the room shifted again, warping as the shadows flickered to life. "Mama!" Mia screamed, panic rising to a fever pitch. "Run!" Emma yelled, pulling her daughter towards the door as the figures within the mirror beckoned them with twisted smiles and outstretched hands. But as they turned to flee, a cold hand reached out from the depths of the mirror, grasping for Mia's ankle. Emma yanked her child back just in time, and they stumbled over one another to escape the nightmares threatening to consume them. They barely made it through the door, slamming it shut behind them, only to be met with another hallway, dark and menacing, stretching endlessly ahead. The oppressive laughter surged back, filling the space around them with relentless energy. "Mom," Mia's voice quivered, eyes glistening with tears. "What do we do?" Emma paused, her breath ragged as she looked into her daughter's terrified gaze. Thoughts raced through her mind, choices that felt impossibly heavy. "We keep going," she managed to say, determination simmering just beneath her fear. "That's all we can do." But somewhere in the murky depths of this place, she sensed a new presence, watching them, waiting. And ahead, a new door loomed, its surface slick and shimmering as if pulsing with a heartbeat of its own. "Is it safe?" Mia asked, holding Emma's hand tighter. "I don't know. "But we have to find out," Emma whispered, dread pooling in her stomach. As they approached, a quiet hum vibrated through the air, a melody both enchanting and sinister that beckoned them closer. The laughter faded for a moment, replaced by a low, haunting sing-song echo that promised secrets and betrayals. Just as they reached for the knob, a voice broke through the stillness, familiar and chilling, echoing back through time. "Emma, where are you?" Emma felt the blood drain from her face as the laughter returned, now mingling with the taunting voice, echoing in a dance of dread. She steeled herself, searching for courage amidst the chaos. What was waiting beyond this door? And was there even a way out anymore? Or were they trapped in a terror that would consume them both? The door felt warm under Emma's shaking fingers, pulsating as if a heartbeat echoed from the other side. The sing-song voice wrapped around her like fog, chilling her to the core. She hesitated, each second stretching into an eternity as memories clawed at the edges of her mind, shadows from her childhood creeping forth, laced with fear and regret. "Mama, I want to go home," Mia whimpered, her voice trembling like a leaf in a storm. "Just a little longer," Emma replied, her voice cracking, betraying her resolve. She pressed her ear to the door, hoping for answers, but only silence greeted her, suffocating and heavy. "Mama!" Mia tugged at her arm, but Emma's heart was too busy racing to listen. It was the fear clawing at her, pushing her to turn back and leave, but then the voice lingered again, softer and more insistent. "Emma." With a burst of courage, she twisted the knob, forcing the door open, revealing a dark room swirling with shadows. The air inside was thick, heavy with danger and uncertainty. Inside, the atmosphere buzzed with anticipation. Flickering candlelight revealed ancient relics lining the shelves, each item draped in a thick layer of dust that seemed to absorb the dim light. In the center of the room stood a small table, ornate and carved from black wood, surrounded by mismatched chairs that looked as if they belonged in a different time. Emma's fingers trembled as she clutched Mia's hand tightly. The air felt charged, buzzing against her skin. "We shouldn't be here," she murmured, fear washing over her. "Mama, I'm scared." Mia buried her face against Emma's side, and Emma's heart twisted painfully at the sound. Then she noticed something on the table, a small box, intricately carved with a design that twisted and turned like a serpent. It called to her, the wood almost glowing in the flickering light. She felt an urge to reach for it, a compulsion that sent waves of unease spiraling through her. "Mama, don't," Mia warned, eyes wide, brimming with tears. Just look, okay?" Emma said, trying to calm her child while battling her own growing dread. She took a cautious step toward the box, her heart pounding wildly. As she extended her hand, the shadows around them thickened, pressing in closer, enveloping them like a shroud. A low hum began to rise from the box, filling the room with a sinister energy that made her skin crawl. "Mama," Mia whispered again, voice quivering. "It doesn't feel right." "Stay back, Mia, please," Emma commanded, her voice strained as she fought the urge to flee. She couldn't turn away. The box's surface shimmered, revealing images of swirling faces, wailing, pleading, souls trapped in an eternal night. "Mama, please," Mia begged, her small frame trembling. Before Emma could respond, the shadows leapt from the corners of the room, taking on solid forms. Wispy figures, faces twisted in anger and despair, reached for her. "Release us!" they shrieked in unison, their ethereal voices a cacophony that crashed against Emma like waves. Time ceased to exist as Emma stared, paralyzed with terror. The box seemed to pulse with malevolent energy, responding to their presence. "Open it," the whispers coiled around her, filling her head, drowning out reason. "Mom, don't!" Mia's small voice broke over the rising dissonance, and Emma felt a tide of desperation surge within her. The room spun around her, the walls bending and warping with unseen forces demanding her compliance. "I can't!" Emma gasped as the figures lurched closer, a whirlwind of sorrow and rage. The air grew frigid, wrapping them in icy fingers. The only thing she could think about was protecting Mia, keeping her safe from the malevolence closing in. "Mama, run!" Mia screamed, and that pierced through Emma's dissociation. They sprinted back towards the door, terror propelling their steps. The shadows shrieked behind them, a din of despair that threatened to swallow them whole. The grip of the ghostly figures was relentless, reaching out to snatch them from safety. Just as they reached the threshold, Emma risked a glance back. The box pulsed even more vigorously now, dark tendrils reaching out like the grasping hands of the damned. She turned away, wrenching the door open and pulling Mia through, slamming it shut behind them with a shudder. Heart pounding, they leaned against the door, breaths coming in ragged gasps. The laughter echoed again, softer yet mocking, filling the air with dread. "Mama, what was in that box?" Mia dared to ask, her wide eyes pleading for answers. Emma shook her head, too terrified to respond. "I don't know." But deep down, she felt the dark presence lurking beyond the door, waiting. They were not safe yet. And as the temperature dipped, the shadows began to pulse beneath the door, eager for their return. Emma felt the familiar taunting voice swirl around them. "Emma, come play." What awaited them next? Panic surged through Emma as she clutched Mia's hand tighter, feeling the little girl's heart race in synchrony with her own. Backing away from the door, she glanced around the dim corridor, desperately searching for a sign of safety. This wasn't over. She could feel it in her bones. "Mama, it's cold," Mia whimpered, her breath misting in the chilled air. Emma nodded numbly, aware that the oppressive presence still lingered, creeping beneath her skin. "Let's just find a way out," Emma managed to whisper, her words barely escaping her lips as they turned to flee down the hallway. Each step echoed, mocking the hasty retreat, shadows darting at the edges of her vision like specters eager to follow. As they moved away from the door, the eerie atmosphere only thickened. The flickering lights cast bizarre shadows that danced along the narrow walls, morphing into grotesque shapes that seemed to reach for them. Heartbeats echoed, a time bomb in her chest, urging her to move faster, but the pounding dread weighed her down. "Mama," Mia peered back, her voice small, trembling in comparison to the malicious whispers coiling through the hallway. "We'll be okay, sweetheart," Emma forced a smile, even as the certainty seeped away. But something primal inside her warned her that safety was a lie. Every shadow held a threat, every corner promised terror. "Mama," Mia peered back, her voice small, trembling in comparison to the malicious whispers coiling through the hallway. "We'll be okay, sweetheart," Emma forced a smile, even as the certainty seeped away. But something primal inside her warned her that safety was a lie. Every shadow held a threat, every corner promised terror. As they ran, Emma caught sight of a staircase at the far end. "There, we can get out through there," she shouted. But as they rushed toward it, the staircase seemed to distort and sway, like the ground beneath them was an illusion. "Mama, it's changing!" Mia cried, clutching at her mother's hand, eyes wide with fear. Emma felt her grip slacken, and panic clawed at her throat. "Mia, stay close!" It was harder to shout now, harder to breathe, as waves of icy dread washed over them. The laughter from behind them echoed, closer now, filled with glee. Emma shot a quick glance behind. The shadows had taken form, their faces sorrowful yet twisted in sinister delight. "Run!" Emma screamed, and they lunged toward the staircase, the very air thickening with ghastly anticipation. Just as they reached the first step, a cold hand, a something, grasped at Emma's ankle, pulling her down with a force that seemed to tear at her soul. "Mom!" Mia's shriek broke through the chaos as Emma stumbled, her heart hammering wildly against her ribcage. The shadows billowed around her, reaching out with swirling hands. Desperately, she jerked free and scrambled to her feet, but the darkness felt alive, slithering up the stair rails, coiling around their legs like a serpent ready to strike. Emma pushed Mia ahead, forcing her up the stairs while she fought against the encroaching phantoms. "Mama, no!" Mia shouted, her small body quaking in terror, but the staircase loomed like a lifeline. "We have to keep going," Emma pleaded, each word heavy with urgency. Suddenly, a blast of cold hit them, freezing Emma to the core. The shadows were gaining on them. She could hear whispers like a sinister tide rising, filling the air with promises and threats. They were closing in, voices mingling in a deadly chorus. "Mama!" Mia cried again, and in that instant, Emma felt the terror writhe within her, threatening to consume her whole. A flash of light caught her eyes as she took the final step and burst through a door at the top of the staircase, slamming it behind her. She and Mia were in what appeared to be a vast old attic, dust motes swimming in the stale air, illuminated by slivers of moonlight from a lone window. But their breaths quickened when they noticed the walls, every surface scrawled with desperate messages, words tangled like the fingers of the damned. "Mama, what happened here?" Mia asked, her voice barely more than a whisper. Emma's throat went dry. She took a cautious step forward, reading the chaotic script, a dark warning they'd only just escaped. "I don't know," she shuddered, only to be interrupted by a heavy thud. The door behind them rattled violently, the shadows outside writhing like a storm unleashed. They were coming. "Mama, what if we don't find a way out?" Mia's fear wrapped around Emma's heart like a snake, squeezing tightly. "Then we'll have to fight," Emma breathed, primed for whatever awaited them beyond their temporary refuge. Glancing around the attic, she searched for something, anything, that could help them fight back. But time was running out, and the safe haven felt like a trap. The door slammed open, a vortex of darkness swirling into the room. Shadows poured in, howling with rage. And above it all sang the haunting voice, "Come play, Emma." What would she face next? The shadows surged into the attic like a storm unleashed, flickering and swirling, grasping with icy fingers that screamed of despair and loss. Each tendril of darkness whispered promises of eternal dread, as if sensing Emma's fear, feeding on her terror. "Mama!" Mia clutched at Emma's sleeve, her small body now trembling with raw fright. Emma's heart pounded, every instinct screaming at her to flee. But where could they go? The door was wide open, the darkness beckoning them like a mouth ready to swallow them whole. "No!" Emma shouted, forcing strength into her voice. "We will not give in." Keeping her grip on Mia, she scanned the room, desperate for anything to use against the growing tide of despair. The messages on the wall seemed to shimmer in the dim light, illuminating sorrow, struggles, and hopelessness. It was a graveyard of lost souls, warning them, or perhaps marking their impending doom. Something caught her eye, a dusty old trunk in the corner, its latch rusted but still intact. "Mia, help me!" she cried, dragging her daughter toward it. They stumbled over old floorboards, their creaking almost echoing their mounting dread. Emma pried the trunk open, fear tangling with anticipation. Inside lay an assortment of forgotten relics, a cracked mirror, a tattered journal, and a set of candles long extinguished. "The journal!" Mia pointed, her voice cutting through the chaos. It lay on top, its cover faded yet distinctly marked. Emma snatched it, flipping it open. pages were filled with frantic scribbles, tales of those who had endured this very nightmare before them. Notes about the house's dark history spilled from the pages. To confront the darkness, one must remember their light. What does that mean? Mia's wide eyes searched her mother's for answers. It means we must remember who we are, who we've been, Emma whispered, her heart racing. We carry our strength with us. As the shadows writhed and coiled closer, tugging at their resolve, Emma grabbed the nearest candle. We must light these and speak the truth, she said, her voice firm, trembling against the chaos threatening to engulf them. With trembling hands, she struck a match, igniting the candle as warmth flickered to life in the shadowed corner. As the glow expanded, the shadows shrank back, hissing as if their very essence was being challenged. Mia's hand trembled in Emma's. What do we say? Emma urged, channeling every ounce of courage she had left. Let's proclaim our love, our hope, and our refusal to surrender. Together, they raised their voices, mismatched but united. We love each other. We will not be your prisoners. We are stronger than the darkness. With every word, every truth spelled out into the darkened attic, the shadows began to shrink like a retreating tide, hesitant to approach the light. The menacing laughter faded, replaced by strained wails that jerked at Emma's heart. The light of the candles gathered strength, glowing brighter, illuminating the attic where darkness had prevailed for too long. The messages on the walls shifted, once full of despair, now beginning to transform. Words of hope breaking through. Love, courage, family. Emma felt a swell of power rising within her. We are not alone, she declared, feeling the collective strength of every spirit that had suffered before them. They were all with her, lending their fractured voices to her own, as the candlelight revealed terrified faces of lost souls, pleading for release. Suddenly, the trunk rumbled as the shadows lunged one final time. Emma threw her weight against it, slamming it shut with a primal shout. No more! We won't let you take us! With the cry, the air crackled, and Mia's fingers curled tightly around her mother's hand. In that moment, a break in the storm, a glimpse of the truth, clarity washed over Emma. They were fighting not just for their lives, but for all who had come before, every spirit trapped within. And then came silence. The shadows fell back, dispersing like smoke as light enveloped the attic, casting golden rays through the dust motes, bathing them both in warmth. Emma breathed in deeply, feeling a lightness fill the space where dread had ruled moments before. "Mama?" Mia asked hesitantly, her voice breaking through the silence filled with warmth. "We did it, Mia. We fought back." Emma pulled her daughter close, wrapping them both in the now peaceful atmosphere surrounding them. Tears filled her eyes, relief, joy, and an overwhelming sense of triumph. The attic felt alive now, the walls no longer whispering tales of despair, but of release and collective strength. They turned to the door leading back into the house, knowing they could face whatever lay ahead. "Mama, can we go home?" Mia's voice echoed softly, turning to meet her mother's gaze, remembering the weight of their old life. "Yes, sweetie, we can go home. We have each other. We are free." As they stepped past the threshold, a gentle breeze wrapped around them, guiding them forward, and for the first time, the shadows retreated without a fight. They moved through the weeping house not as victims, but as survivors, carrying the weight of every voice that had echoed within its walls. Each step marked a departure from fear, a stride toward hope. With the air lighter and clearer, they left the weeping house behind, a grim specter of the past fading into the distance.
Emma and Mia stepped toward the dawn, the new day beckoning with its bright promise. And as the sun edged over the horizon, warmth flooding the world around them, Emma smiled, feeling lightness spreading through her heart.
They were free. They had conquered the darkness. Now, it's your turn. You need to subscribe to the channel immediately so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that promise twists and turns that'll keep you on the edge of your seat. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help us grow this awesome community together. And flood the comment section with your reactions and wild theories about Emma and Mia's journey. What would you have done? Finally, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to spread the word. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.